Okay, I'm live. I'm just going to do the normal thing that I try to do here, which is get this reshared and let people know that I am live over on X, which is, yeah, folks, X. Yeah, that's the place to be today. If you're into the social media stuff, X is definitely the place to be. And it's turned out to be everything I hoped it could be. And I'm sure it's only going to get better and improve under the leadership of Elon Musk. Thanks once again, Elon Musk, for doing what you did and spending that big pile of money, those tens of billions of dollars. What is it, 44, 46, something like that, billions of dollars. But my God, the return on your investment I mean, maybe not economically as of yet, but you're definitely seeing a massive return on the investment in terms of actual liberty and in promoting freedom of speech. So once again, very grateful for that, and the fact that you're out there with such a close and cozy relationship with Trump, the man who is now the president-elect and going to be the president of the United States once again, aka Trump 47, baby. Yeah, 45 and 47. Yeah, Trump. It's unbelievable that this actually happened. It's great that it did. Of course, I'm happy, and the fact that libertarians are actual having genuine sway and influence and will continue to do so for the next 4 years. Shout out to people like Dave Smith. Like, wow, I'm just, once again, just so happy to see what's taking place down south, down to our neighbors below us there. And it's an amazing spectacle, and it's going to be a great next 4 years for them. Now, of course, just like the stream says, the live stream is, yeah, we're going to be some contrasting that with what's happening up here in Canada, right? Which is, yeah. I know, right? Now, I will just say this, before I get too heavy into things, I will just say this to be on the optimistic side of thing, right? Is my whole life, well, at least once I was old enough and aware enough to pay attention to things like this, is a lot of things that happen in the US eventually make their way up to like places like central Canada, and eventually we'll make it to the East Coast here on Atlantic Canada. I remember that kind of stuff even back in the breakdancing days, and how we seem to be quite a ways behind, in terms of culture and stuff like that. And not just our central Canadian counterparts or Western Canadian counterparts, but Americans in particular. Anyways, but yeah, just like I say, so that's a positive thing to think is, we're a little late to the game as per usual, but hopefully we will get there. In the meantime, though, like I say, I'm going to show some of that contrast as to how things have been unfolding politically up here and culturally, and how they're playing out down south. Now, we had our time. We had that short time. Remember, it was a little while for the trucker protest in Ottawa. We had our time. How much did we actually gain as a consequence of that? We could sit down and actually, I have had discussions and debates and talked about that a lot. And it was great when it happened, but it looks like the Americans are like, yeah, hold my beer, Canada. I'm going to show you how it's really done. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, like I say, there's still lots of time for this to play out and unfold, but it's definitely looking really, really good, down south these days. In particular, since November 6th, and I'm so glad it came through, that it happened that fast, and we didn't have to, wait for weeks or so, to find out the truth, or whether things were going to turn out properly or not. Anyways, yeah, let me just share. Like I say, I'm just going to make sure people know over on X, on my profile, that I am live. So let me put this here. Profile. Where are we at? There we go. There we go. All right. And we'll share this bad boy. Oh, I'm live, baby. All right. Maybe I'll do a little hashtag Team Trump just for the hell of it, right? Team Trump. Why not? Why not, right? Just for the hell of it. All right, now that we see that's all done. And I'm just going to put that in the old folder. I like keeping my stuff all figured out here on X in the bookmarks. I'm not sure if you folks that use X use the bookmarks, but I do. I think it's a great thing because then I can go back and reference them anytime I want, which really helps a lot. Really helps a lot. So now that that is done, and I did share on my Facebook page, on the Canadian Libertarian Facebook page, that I am live and live streaming, not just on X, but on YouTube and Rumble, of course. And yeah, Rumble's another one of those platforms. This is great. So think about the dominant things that we typically care about in the social media realm, right? Like, I love my YouTube. Don't get me wrong, right? The video platform, and of course, you know, being able to put other things out on platforms in text form or video or audio and all that stuff on platforms such as X, which is a little bit quicker to go through in terms of getting more information in a shorter period of time. But yeah, it's so nice to have X as that option. So now with X and Rumble, yeah, no matter what the other players, the dominant players, the dominant social media platforms, although we have even seen Zuckerberg. I mean, Zuckerberg is now identifying as a libertarian, and he's big time into the MMA, right? So, I mean, even Facebook, and I mean, think about it, even Bezos, right? Another one of the richest men on the planet that owns Washington Post, in addition to Amazon and a multitude or a plethora of other corporations and businesses. But he even come out and said, "Yep, we're not endorsing either candidate." So he's taking a neutral stance, right? So this is great to see some of these behemoths, these titans of industry, right? These innovators, these entrepreneurs, these creators who are on the side of liberty and the side of Trump, which is the guy that's the proverbial bull in the china shop, who's, sure, he's gonna make a little bit of a mess from time to time. Trump is not, like a full-on libertarian, but the beautiful thing is he's got the kind of people around him that know how to clean that mess up and put everything back in its proper place, right? Yeah. So this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And once again, really appreciate all you folks who are like me, especially if you're Canadian, and a lot of you folks are, because this is the typical audience that I tend to try to appeal to as a Canadian myself, right? Americans, they got that stuff covered in spades. They don't need me to step in there, right? They got that. But in Canada, yeah, there are a few lone voices up here, right, that are trying to help not interject our voice and our opinions or our perspective, but to try to get into actually being part and parcel of the discourse and giving Canadians an optional or an alternative way of thinking about things rather than constantly being subjected to the lies and propaganda, right? I mean, to me, even the people that I find to be my opponents and even somewhat my enemies to a degree, right? In a way, I kind of feel sorry for them for the fact, because I see all they're inundated with on a daily basis, or at least a regular basis. It's just nonstop leftist lies and bullshit and propaganda. So, can you really blame them? Well, in a way you can, because just like the quote I've shared around a multitude of times, which is, in the age of information, ignorance truly is a choice, but right, it is not reason enough for me to loathe them or to hate on these people. A lot of them are just confused, dazed and confused. And like I say, even though, they have free will and they should be doing better to help properly inform themselves. Yeah. When you're inundated by this stuff, this propaganda, this central planning narrative, right? This collective narratives by not just those in the media, but the political class, the establishment in terms of the ruling class, academia. I mean, all think about education, healthcare. I mean, think about all these institutions who all are, especially in Canada, are comprised by a bunch of leftists who keep parroting the same bullshit message time and time again, and woefully and massively inadequately informing and basically omitting facts and lying to the people of Canada and the people who follow, these so-called experts, right? It's great to see that, well, at least as far as the Americans are concerned, it's like, yeah, take your fucking experts and shove them up your ass. We got our own, right? It's the thing. That's the thing. The Americans, wow. And not only did they elect Trump, think about that. Not only did they elect Trump with a very sizable, majority in terms of the electoral college, but the popular vote, the Senate, he's going to have a nice, the Trump Republicans are going to take back the Senate to a sizable degree, not just a 1 vote flip here, right? We're talking a few seats that they've taken back, and there could be more yet. And it's looking really, really, I kind of called it in a way a little bit early, but I believe my prediction is going to be correct that, yeah, they're going to maintain the House as well. And of course, that combined with the popular vote, there's the mandate. There's the mandate. And this is what's really putting the leftists, the collectivists, on notice and having them really somewhat shaking in the boots. And once again, I will just say this too. There's a short time frame where, yeah, be celebratory, enjoy the fact that these fucking hacks, and some of them are pretty vile people, right? And the rhetoric we've had to be inundated with, the gaslighting, all the bullshit, right? For sure, enjoy and revel in the fact that they were all proven wrong once again. But I say I'm on board with a lot of the messaging that I'm seeing these days, which is, and then quickly move on and just let's focus on making liberty the priority, freeing the actual people the priority, for every hour, for every day, for every week, for every month, for all the time you spend going after your opponents. And, I'm not saying that, especially the COVID fuckers, right? Yeah, these people need to be held accountable. And put some people in charge of that stuff. Delegate that responsibility to the people. And trust me, talk to the libertarians, Trump. They will be able to, give you some great advice who the right kind of people you should put in these positions to hold all these fucking deep state actors and some of these crooks and these liars and these control freaks, put them on notice and hold them accountable. But you yourself and, a sizable portion of your administration really, really does need to focus on just, making it so that liberty is not just front and center, but something that no matter who comes along afterward, right, can't just quash or destroy, with the stroke of a pen in some way. This is something that has to be deeply rooted in the culture and permeate through all the institutions. This is, yes, drain that swamp of all these fucking petty tyrants and authoritarian collectivists and put in place in their stead the kind of people who genuinely care about the Constitution and upholding the fundamental rights and freedoms, the liberty that is what the American experiment is, was, and always should be. That to me is the priority. That's where the priorities need to be. You can save a little bit of time, right, for some gloating. You can even save a little time once again to hold some of these fuckers, the worst among them at least, to account for their vile actions, their deeds, right? But heavily focus on doing everything humanly possible to put liberty back on the map and expanding it as maximal as humanly possible, right? Right on. That's my thought. Anyways, I got a lot more thoughts of that. But yeah, let me just get to, I just want to say another thing too. First of all, shout out to Dave Smith and a few of the other libertarians who've been, chirping in Donald Trump's ear and and definitely I've seen the tweets, and good on you, Dave, for pointing out, that, yeah, you cannot be hiring any of these fucking old neocons anymore. You got to learn the lessons of the past. And I'm sure, Trump, you have, right? But yeah, don't be dealing with these neocons. And I'm proud to point out, and this, actually, it's funny that this is not the headline of the article by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a CBC article. Trump projected to win Arizona and sweep of battleground states, GOP on brink of taking houses, which is great, right? They're just 5 seats away from keeping the House control from Democrats. But no, it was quite a ways down into this article as I was reading it, where it's like, I kind of knew it already, but yeah, even the CBC had to acknowledge, right, this is a quote from Trump. I will not be inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley or former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. Trump posted on social media, which is great. But once again, shout out to Dave Smith for adding on top of that. This is great news, Trump, and it really is great news. But get rid of any of those deep state actors who were appointees of any of the past administrations. You really do got to fucking start fresh and start from scratch in so many areas, so many ways. And declassifying public sector or public servants, right, as a means to do that, genius. But yes, definitely don't allow any of these deep state actors or these wannabe petty tyrants who are definitely going to try to cozy up to you to gain some position in your administration. But yeah, don't fall for any of those fuckers and don't put any of them in. Like I say, that's a definite no for sure. Keep them as far away from the fucking halls of power as humanly possible, because we've seen how bad they'll fuck things up, right? And you definitely don't want that. But yeah, that was so good to see that. Like I say, you have and with RFK going to be appointed for health and stuff to help in so many ways in that regard. That's another great thing. Elon, like holy shit, think about it. Elon Musk that's a man. I mean, when you talk about someone that knows how to drain this, like the swamp, well, there was the proverbial swamp at Twitter that he definitely eliminated. And not only does it work great, but think of the money he's saving, right? Well, that should be the same thing for we, the taxpayers, well, especially the Americans in particular. Yeah, you can greatly reduce and eliminate a huge portion of the federal bureaucracy in both our countries, but here in particular, where you actually have the opportunity down in the U.S. to do that and save the American people, the American taxpayer, a shitload of money, in addition to all the unneeded and unnecessary bureaucracy and petty tyrants who are constantly trying to micromanage and dictate their social and economic lives. That's an awesome thing too, right? Anyways, just before I continue on, there's a bunch, like I say, I want to get to, but I'm just going to get in here and see if we got any folks in the chat. Actually, let me just check on the Rumble too. Actually, I forgot to check that. Make sure Rumble's working here. Let's see. Yeah, I had a different on my Rumble too. I hope that worked out okay. Yep, I'm good. Apparently, it's all good. It's all good on Rumble, and I do see there's some people already checking out the stream on Rumble. We got even a couple on X, and I see there's a few on YouTube already. So that's good, I guess. People are, at least a few people are getting the notification. That's great. Great to know. I see Shauna Vision. Actually, I saw Shauna Vision had commented on my social media actually earlier or yesterday or whatever, but I see that and I appreciate that as well, Shauna Vision. And good afternoon to you, sir. Really thank you for joining the live stream. It's exciting times, folks. It's exciting times. I know for Canada, and I'll admit, hey, I'm feeling a little resentful here today, especially as a New Brunswicker. I was greatly disheartened. Not that I think Blaine Higgs or the fucking progressive conservatives, like, what an oxymoron, right? That's one thing I will say about the conservatives in Canada and for Poilievre at the federal level. At least they don't call themselves progressives anymore, right? They've taken that label. They've scratched that from their label. But yeah, what Canadians genuinely need is someone who is at least as bombastic and unapologetically brave enough to say what needs to be said. It'd be great if it was a libertarian, but even if it's not a libertarian, if it's just someone like Trump who's willing to say what needs to be said, and once again, unapologetically, and have that kind of courage of his conviction, that's huge. I don't think Pierre Poilievre is even remotely near that. But that's the thing with Canada. And it's a sad thing. Canadians always like the country of low expectations when it comes to freedom or liberty. And that's a sad, sad thing, because there are a sizable portion of Canadians, as we've seen during the Freedom Convoy, who do genuinely, respect fundamental rights, freedoms, and liberty, and are generally willing to fight and stand up for them. The problem is, though, is unlike in America, we're so massively outnumbered, and we don't seem to have anyone. That's the other thing. We're all the people in positions of economic might and power in Canada who are putting their money where their mouth is and backing people who are actually genuine freedom fighters. This is the big fucking problem, at least in America, right? You got the richest man in America backing Trump and libertarian type people, live let live type of people who are trying to turn that big gigantic state of ship around. You don't have that here in Canada and fucking New Brunswick. Listen, the Libertarian Party of New Brunswick, and I was so happy to be part of even the small part that I did play in terms of bringing a little bit of liberty to the forefront in New Brunswick in terms of at least having a political option. Because New Brunswick, and not just New Brunswick, the East Coast, the Atlantic provinces, what the fuck is wrong with the rest of my fucking fellow Atlantic Canadians? I mean, like I say, Hashtag not all. I know some of you are out there supporting liberty and supporting the Libertarian Party of New Brunswick. But in terms of numbers, what? Less than a couple hundred people per riding at best? Most of them not even 100 fucking people. So we are, once again, we are massively outnumbered, outgunned financially, and overlooked and ignored. And we don't have like the kind of dominant platforms that are all Canadian focused where we can get our voices out there. I mean, look at, I have to use American platforms as a Canadian to try to get my voice out there. And you know, it works to a small degree, to some degree, but obviously is not enough. There's days, there's weeks, hell, there's been months where I've sat and thought, am I just doing this for self-therapy? Because it doesn't seem to be doing much other than that, right? Or helping a small group of us in Canada, at least have somewhere to talk and converse with each other, right? To kind of help alleviate some of our concerns in some way, or at least diminish them to a degree, right? So that we have someone else to talk to. But wow, does it ever pale in comparison to our American counterparts? And like I say, that Canadian contrast is it's very disheartening. It's very disheartening. And I really, really hope that more and more Canadians, like hopefully there'll be enough of them that will suffer enough misery under these fucking woke, whether it's the Liberals or the NDP or even some of these so-called conservatives in this country. But yeah, Blaine Higgs, I'll just tell you, yeah, you lost because you didn't, as far as I'm concerned, you were still trying to play both sides of the fucking fence. See, that's the thing with someone like Trump. He's just going to be fucking straight up and honest and unapologetically conservative. If you're a conservative, right, or a libertarian, just be you and stop trying to appease or reach out to appeal to the very people that loathe you, right? Because you leave a lot of us really, like I say, I couldn't get exuberantly or enthusiastically behind fucking Blaine Higgs. Like I say, I get more inspired by paint drying on a wall than the kind of shit that Higgs fucking had on offer in terms of at least the rhetoric. The policies, maybe some of the policies I agreed with. Well, in particular, the 713, in terms of parents actually fucking, schools should never have any pretense of authority. No teacher, no principal, no administrator, nobody in any school, any position should ever think in their head that they have any right to override what fucking parents know about their fucking kids when it terms of sexuality or their pronouns or all this shit, or what, whether they're boys that are playing in girls' sports or any of that fucking foolishness. You should have been more, forthright about that. And instead of just trying to constantly be apologetic and try to explain your position so weakly, so weak-kneed like that. I mean, look at what the fucking Liberals did in New Brunswick already. So I'm just going to point this out for the Canadians in the audience here. So yeah, in Canada, well, we had the Blaine Higgs for what was 6 years, but I mean, even they fucked up. In a way, I'm kind of glad that Higgs got his ass fucking handed to him because yeah, he fell for it, even though it took him a little while. That Chris Austin too, the fucking across the floor, and they were the ones. It was all this bullshit that where they finally, I don't know what it was that tipped them over the edge, but then they went into the full tyrannical fucking lockdown mandates and all that bullshit here in New Brunswick as well. And yeah, I'm fucking, in a way, yeah, I'm kind of glad to see that Higgs is gone, but it's a sad state of affairs to see that the one that fucking replaced him is Susan Holt and the Liberals. Because you know what the two things that they've done so far, the priorities that the Susan Holt Liberals in New Brunswick, their priorities so far has been to unwind this policy 713 and jig around with that to the point where they can pretend that some of these fucking administrative staff or people in schools have some right more so than the parents in terms of kids, right? And another thing that they've done is, so let me just point this out in terms of the abortion thing, right? And once again, I'm not against all abortions. I am not an anti-abortion person, right? I'm the kind of person, I'm reasonable. My brain function off common sense. And I make sure ethics always drives my decisions and my opinions and my perspective. So my thing is, yeah, no, people should not. I mean, think of it. I understand human incentive. I understand how humans are incentivized. And yeah, the minute you give people carte blanche ability to fucking just kill the babies anytime they want, whatever stage they want, and not even have to fucking pay for it because it's under the socialist healthcare system in this country, right? Although they're paying for it or someone else is paying for it if they're just parasites that don't work or whatever. But of course, it's being paid for by somebody. So no, there's no such thing as free healthcare. But the fact that in New Brunswick, so like I say, our socialist healthcare system, which is already fucking massively failing and faltering already. But here's what the Susan Holt did. So in New Brunswick, you can go to 3 hospitals in this province. And I mean, this isn't a very big province. Trust me. These 3 hospitals, you're never any more than a couple hours away from one of these fucking hospitals in New Brunswick. Anyways, but you could go and force people like me and the regular taxpayers and Christian conservatives who are completely against abortion, but you can already force them and us, based on this public socialist system, right, healthcare system, you'd already force us to pay for your abortion in 3 hospitals. It's already allowed, and there's not even no limitations or restrictions in terms of what trimester or what week, right? So the pro-abortionists, the I want to kill my baby people, they already had that in spades. They could already do that and didn't even have to suffer the economic cost for doing so, right? But that wasn't good enough for fucking Susan Holt and these fucking weird ass, I don't know, they call them feminists or these woke leftists or these collectivists or I don't know, these fucking weird, strange death cult women, right? That seem to, whether it's MAID or abortion or whatever, that or fucking pushing COVID, the death cult, like I say. But yeah, they wanted it now to expand. So what she went and did is and rewrote the rules, took out some line that was in there where that, well, at least we as taxpayers don't have to fund private clinics and their abortion. Well, now Susan Holt figured, well, that's really important to force taxpayers like Bennett or others to pay for abortions in private clinics. And think about the kind of people who are left. As if they're all about private companies. No, but if it means killing babies, oh, they're all for it, right? But that's the fucking, I don't know how they square that fucking shit in their own fucking mind. They'd be against any private health care, right? That's what the fucking left, that's what these collectivists, that's what these socialists constantly talk about. I hear them on a regular basis on CBC, CTV, Global, all of them. Oh yeah, Pierre Poilievre just wants to privatize, or I don't know, fucking Doug Ford, or when we don't want private options. Oh, private's bad. Private's bad. Oh, but if it gives us another option to kill our babies, private good, right? What the fuck? But that's what the priorities of this woman has been, is to prioritize forcing taxpayers to fund abortions in private clinics and unwinding some of the 713 policies that Blaine Higgs implemented, which I think were completely fucking reasonable. But that's the priorities. No, nothing about helping. Think about the housing crisis in not just Canada, but yeah, even in New Brunswick. Think about, if you're in New Brunswick, think about in all of our major cities, all these homeless encampments. Think about the massive amount of crime. Think about all the shit that's taken place. And how expensive our groceries are and the cost of fuel that's now at least 30 plus cents a liter more than what it should be because of the ridiculous fucking carbon tax. Well, and that's another thing. At least Blaine Higgs was offering to knock off a couple percentage points of the HST or GST or whatever, which would have been good for all Canadians, right? Or anyone that has to pay these fucking taxes at least. But no. New Brunswickers said, no, we don't want it. We don't want things to become cheaper. We don't want to have more freedom. We don't want to have fucking parental rights, front and center and stuff. No. We want to kill babies and we want to be able to call Tommy Timmy or Tammy. Like, what the fuck? What in the holy flippity fuck is wrong with the people in this fucking province? And like I say, enjoy it while you can, fuckers, because eventually change will come. And the change will come. This is the other thing too. You fuckers are the one that's going to usher in the change the most. It's not your Trump characters. No, Trump is just a symptom of a pre-existing disease, which is statism, which is central planning and fucking tyrannical tendencies of these elitist pieces of shit, not just in terms of the politicians, but those who represent the dominant institutions in our country as well, and the media. The backlash is directly because of the shit you folks push and promote. That's what it is. So you can blame Trump We'll find out who you're going to blame. You know, of course, it'll be Pierre Poilievre. And that's another thing. Pierre Poilievre, if you ever, although I don't think you will, but if anyone that supports Pierre Poilievre, if you ever chirp in his ear, would you explain to that fucking man that follow the lead of Trump, be unapologetic, and I know you're trying in some lame Canadian way, trying to mirror the Trump image in some way, but how about you just do you rather than just trying to be Trump clone or Trump light? How about you step out and just be you? Well, that's the thing. I suppose it's not actually you to do that, right? Which is why you have to get your not your margin orders, but your cues from Trump-like figures and stuff. Because apparently it's not even within you to have the kind of courage of your convictions to say things in your own way and to put the authoritarian statists and collectivists, and not just on the left, but in your own fucking party on notice. You know, Trump, that's one thing I'll say about Trump. He ran as a Republican, but he pissed off a lot of fucking Republicans. Why? Because he took, you know, a stance that a position or a stance that he considered was a principled stance or position, you know, whether you agree with him or not, and he didn't give a fuck who were part of his tribe or team agreed with him, because he had his own idea and he was the leader, how he wanted things done. Right? But here in Canada, no, Pierre Poilievre will go by polling. Yeah. His opinion will be wholly informed by polling or what's safe or acceptable to at least a sizable enough population of Canada that I can, you know, form government, right? Fucking weak-kneed inept. Like, once again, and that's the same whether you're talking about Pierre Poilievre or any of these conservatives in Canada, right? I mean, with one small exception, maybe two. I don't know. Scott Moe seems like whatever, but he's fucking no Trump. But at least he kind of has enough courage to kind of do things his way. But even more so, which is crazy. So shout out to some of the real strong women in Canada, and I'll shout out to Danielle Smith. She's actually the one, when I look out in the political landscape in this country, far superior than fucking Pierre Poilievre. It's actually a woman. This is how fucking sad men have fallen and how far men have fallen in this country. It's actually a fucking woman, which, hey, like I say, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care what's between your legs as long as your ideas resonate with me, as long as we're on the side of liberty, at least the same side of liberty, right? And yeah, Danielle Smith, the Alberta premier, is head and shoulders above every other fucking man in the political field these days, federally or provincially, or even at the local level, in terms of at least standing up, you know, to the authoritarian collectivists. Far superior. So yeah, that should at least do something to you Pierre Poilievre, or any of you other conservatives in this country. He's like, yeah, how about you not just step up to being at least on par with Danielle Smith in terms of your courage, right? But maybe try to do even better. If that's possible, you know, if I could just ask such a thing, that there's such thing as an actual man and politician today who has the kind of courage, right, that someone like Danielle Smith does. You know, it'd be real nice. Be real nice. I'd really like to see that. Really would. Anyways, I just want to point this out too, because once again, the media blatantly, both Canada and the US, the fucking establishment media lies like a motherfucker. And then they'll sit down, they'll say such stupid shit like, oh, well, Trump and his bullshit hyped up hyperbolic rhetoric in terms of immigration. And, oh yeah, they're just coming across, oh, his conspiracy theories, or the conspiracy theories of his followers saying, oh yeah, they're just coming in here to vote for Democrats. And that's why the Democrats want to bring in, you know, a massive amount of not just immigrants, but, you know, asylum seekers and illegal border crossers to fill up their the voting booth with supporters so that they can dominate political discourse for the foreseeable future. They say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Yet, like I say, these fucking people don't even know what the left hand, don't even know what the right hand. Oh, I guess actually there is no right hand when you're talking about CBC. They all got fucking left hands in there. Well, that must be awkward. Anyways, let me just show you this, folks. Let me just show you this. Yeah, I'm a little fired up today, but check this shit out. Check this shit out. Once again, it's all about showing the contrast here, folks. Super happy for my American counterparts. Really disappointed for Canada, but hopefully we're going to change things eventually. Hopefully. Anyways, as you folks see, let me bring this on. Yeah, just make sure you can see that. Yeah, you got it. I see it. Okay, so look at this. My first real act as a Canadian citizen was to vote, and nothing could be more meaningful. Marking my ballot in my new home country felt like a rite of passage. This being reported by Anusia Data, October 27th, 2024. When I looked down at the ballot in front of me, the pencil feels heavier in my hand than it should. For many, the act of voting is just a formality. But for me, marking my X feels like my first real act as a Canadian since I became a citizen 2 fucking months ago. 2 months ago. This person, this recent immigrant, most important thing to this person was to vote. And you know what voting is, right? Literally, I mean, as a libertarian, let me just point out, you're voting in elections and democracies is choosing which gang gets to rule over their opponents in society. That's really what it is when you're talking about politics and voting at the end of the day, right? Who gets to dominate their opponents? Who gets to use the popularity vote or the majority, or in Canada in the first past the post system, the minority that supposedly is the majority vote to once again railroad over everyone else in society, to dominate them, to plunder their economic prosperity, their income, their wealth, all that stuff. That's what voting does. And that is what these people have been trained to think of is, first thing I want to do when I get here is get involved with using force as a means to an end. Right? Because when in Rome, see, this is a big problem with democracy. And I'm against it even for, already Canadians. Canadians are already Canadians. I'm talking about Canadian citizens. I'm against it whether you're a Canadian citizen or a new immigrant, or a new citizen like this person. As you know, the one thing I'll point out though is, hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I'm against it for Americans as well. Right? I don't, just like most American libertarians and anarchists and voluntarists, no, we don't believe that we require rulers or that people should be using force as a means to an end or theft, right? But in the interim, this is the one thing about libertarians, and we're all kind of coming around, or not all, but at least a lot of us are coming around too. It's like, all right, you want to play these stupid games? All right, let's play the stupid games and see how you like it when the shoe's on the other foot. Hey, once again, I was the fucking guy saying, listen, let's not try to dominate. Let's not use politics and the metaphorical gigantic gun in the room to dominate and plunder each other. Let's not do that. But since everyone else's response was, no, we want to do that. It's like, okay, all right, fuckers, right? But anyway, so yeah, I don't really need to read much of that. Just the sheer fact that a recent immigrant or an immigrant who just recently became a Canadian citizen, right? And the fact that CBC's run it, which way she's probably going to vote, right? And she's talking about being so thankful for being brought to this country. And we know whose fucking face has been plastered all over hey, we welcome everybody. Come on up here. I'll just force the working Canadians to fucking pay for you fuckers, or constantly suppressing their wages or making housing more expensive. But look, I'm virtue signaling. So we all know who predominantly a lot of these immigrants are going to be pretending that they're very thankful for bringing them here and giving them citizenship. So we know that just like in the U.S., in Canada, the leftists are literally using it. But once again, even if I just pointed out their own article, they'd probably still try to gaslight me and say, you're a conspiracy theorist. But you guys literally just admitted it. You just ran an article, right? Basically admit to everything I've accused you of in the past. So there's that. And then there's the other thing. I mean, let's just take as a truck driver, right? And I think wages actually, even in the trucking field, in particular in Canada, has been quite stagnant and not even close to staying up with inflation and it's been a long time, folks. Long fucking time, right? And not only is that made even worse by this mass immigration push to bring all these people from different countries, in particular, it seems like mostly, Indian and Pakistani types who seemingly, I don't know who it is with these trucking companies or the government. It's like, what's wrong? What Well, you don't want to pay old stock Canadians a half decent wage, so you just want to bring in immigrants? Or are you trying to pretend that they're fucking superior in some way? Once again, at the individual level, you have to deal with it that way. But even in the aggregate, are you going to pretend that these fucking people are superior to existing Canadians in terms of, at least existing Canadians know the roadway, they know the rules much, much better. They lived here their whole fucking life, right? Got more skin in the game, that's for damn sure. But no, not only are they bringing them here, which is another means to suppress wages, right? And to take jobs, right? But it also will have a dramatic effect on the safety of all Canadians who are traveling the roads, because there's this, for those of you who aren't aware of that. Hidden camera. Internal memo reveal how unqualified truck drivers are getting onto Canada's roads. Memo reveals bribes, forged documents at Ontario's drive test centers. This reported by Jenny Crowley, Greg Sadler, Asha Tomlinson for CBC News, October 11, 2024. The system for testing truck drivers in Ontario has been compromised by bribes, forged documents, and rigged testing, says a memo leaked to CBC's Marketplace by an industry insider. A subsequent hidden camera investigation by Marketplace reveals that the training students get ahead of that test can be just as problematic. So once again, this was just fortunately someone that actually said, you know what, I'm going to whistleblow about this shit. And then the CBC decided to fucking start to investigate. But it took that person to speak out first for us to even know that shit. It's not like CBC was preemptive or on top of things. No, because they're too busy, like I say, virtue signaling, woke bullshit, promoting identity politics, and every form of authoritarian collectivist fucking policy you could possibly think of, right? Ontario's drive test centers are managed by a company called Serco, which oversees operations and logistics for a variety of organizations, ranging from air traffic control for the Canadian Armed Forces to employment services for the federal government. The leaked internal memo, which was shared with Marketplace following an investigation into driving schools, was addressed to all driving examiners in Ontario. It reveals a number of employees have either resigned or been terminated this past year due to investigations that we have completed involving allegations of inappropriate and illegal behavior. This behavior ranges from examiners accepting bribes for issuing road test passes to manipulation of automatic versus manual transmission certificates to false driver experience being added to the driver records, according to the memo. This memo, dated November 2023, was signed by Gary Cook, Serco's Vice President of Operations. Anyways, folks, so yeah, like I said, I won't waste too much time with this. Matter of fact, I don't know if I'm going to even I'll probably put all this stuff. I'll actually leave these up so that I haven't actually put them in the description of the stream. I was just kind of go through them, but you know what? Just for you folks that do like to have the kind of information backed up and easily referenced within the live stream description, I will do that for you. But yeah, just think about that, folks. Just think about that. And then, so here's another one. So talk about the job thing, right? And this is actually, let's bring this up. So this is the problem. And this is what the establishment media keeps doing to Canadians and the constant gaslighting. Of course, they try to do it to Americans too, but at least what we've seen today is the Americans aren't falling for your fucking shit anymore. And you can't help but think that's because they actually have access to alternative perspectives, much more so than we do in Canada, right? But anyways, yeah, so look at this. So this one is a CTV, which is CTV, CBC, two wings of the same fucking propagandist bird for the establishment in this country, right? But yeah, data shows migrants aren't taking jobs from Black or Hispanic people, despite what Trump says. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump promised the biggest deportation event in the U.S. has ever seen if he's elected, a promise he has predicated in part on the notion that immigrants in the U.S. legally and illegal are stealing what he calls Black jobs and Hispanic jobs. But government data show immigrant labor contributes to economic growth and provides promotional opportunities for native-born workers. And a mass deportation event would cost U.S. taxpayers up to $1 trillion and could cause the cost of living, including food and housing, to skyrocket, economists say. So bullshit. Let's get to the point down here anyways. So here's the thing. So, they come out with the propaganda, and you folks are plenty familiar enough with the propaganda. But listen to this. The latest U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics current population survey data shows that as of 2023, native-born Black workers are mostly are most predominantly employed in management and financial operations, sales, and office support roles, while native-born Latino workers are most often employed in management, office support, sales, and service occupations. So they're basically saying the fucking same things. So basically what they're saying, no, these immigrants aren't coming and taking black and Latinos jobs, because the blacks and Latinos all have upper management positions, while the immigrant, whatever their background happens to be, are just taking the jobs beneath them. Once again, you know damn well that is not a universally acceptable truth or statement, right? There's no fucking way you could possibly say that every management position, every fucking administrative, or the higher paying positions, or all that is just black and Latino. And if it is, well, what the fuck? Was there no white people? What's going on with white people? Why are they being omitted? Anyways, forget about that shit. But to pretend that, oh no, immigrants come to this country taking jobs, aren't taking jobs from anyone, because black and Latinos all have these what? Government derived bureaucratic positions, or corporate derived management positions. Like, once again, to paint black people and Latino people with such a broad brush in such a way as if they all work in just a very, 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 very small sliver of the workforce in the U.S. That just seems like absolute fucking bullshit. That seems like rhetoric that, yeah, if there's even one little small semblance of truth, even if it's only a small portion of it, they're just going to run with it anyways. That's what it's coming across to me. But to pretend that millions of people, no matter what country you come in, aren't actually taking jobs away from people is an absolute lie. And even hacks in the establishment media have had to admit it, although they forget about that, because once again, it's all rhetoric to them. It's all just repeating and regurgitate what they're told, right, by their central planning masters, by their thought leaders. Because on one day, once again, they could be saying, oh yeah, wages are suppressed because of immigration, and they have to admit that. And they have asked to meet that. But yet, then they'll come up with shit like this. So anyways, once again, it just proves once again that in Canada, they're still willing to lie through their teeth and pretend everything's all right, man. It's all right. Don't worry. Right? It's wrong. And here's another thing too, in terms of the racial division that's been pumped out for years and years and years now by the hacks in the establishment media. Let me just show you one example of that. And it's like so fucking pathetic. I'll be checking out some of the comments here in a sec too, folks, by the way. Just wanted to get a couple things in here. So listen to this. Like, holy fuck. The most lamest attempt of an example of racism that I've ever seen. And wait till you see this. Wait until you see the bullshit in this article. So here we go. Concerns of hateful racism after Ontario man's video of woman ranting about people from India goes viral. Ashwin Anamalia files police report. This person fucking filed a police report after WRPS reached out to him. Politicians condemn remarks in video. So this report by Karis Mapp, October 18th, 2024. A Waterloo, Ontario man is speaking out after his video of a woman ranting about the South Asian community went viral. Ashwin Annamalai, whatever, said he used his cell phone to record the woman after she gave him the middle finger, an action he said was unprovoked while he was out for a walk on Tuesday evening. Annamalai said that after he confronted the woman to ask what he had done to deserve the gesture, she went on about how Indian people are invading Canada. In the video, she's heard saying Indians are taking over Canada and go back to India. Annamalai said these types of interactions have become common for him and his friends, with some escalating to physical violence, which is why he chose to record the conversation. It's happening before, and every time it happens, I'm shocked and taken aback at the state at which the community is deteriorating in terms of racism. I decided I needed to document this because otherwise it's just my word. It does not carry credible proof. He also posted the video to his account on X, formerly known as Twitter, as it amassed over 1 million views in 2 days. He said that since the beginning of this year, incidents such as these have happened weekly. I've lived here since 2018, and just until even the end of 2023, I've never experienced things in this magnitude before. My friends who are people of color also seem to regularly go through the same thing in Kitchener, Waterloo. So politician decry hateful comments, right? And I mean, he called the fucking police, which is people who carry guns around with them and lock people in cages, right? Or extort them for large sums of money, right? That's his response to and the fact that a woman, a what was it? How old is this fucking woman again? Well, she's a senior citizen anyways. That I know. She's an older woman. But his response to an older woman saying them some things that he didn't like, right? And I'll admit, probably not the best thing for some to say. And obviously, this woman, did not obviously have the ability or the willingness to be more nuanced in what she had to say. But still, the fact that you're going to go from, so she said some things you didn't like, to escalation all the way up to the point where you're going to bring in men with guns and bring in like go to the reporters so someone like CBC can put a hit pieces on this woman, right? So that now she can be the target. Yeah, great response, you little fucking pussy. You know what? I've been insulted. Holy shit, I can't even count how many times I've been insulted by young, old, strong, weak, big, small, everything, colored people, white people, all everything and anything. I've been insulted by people from all over the political and social spectrums, right? Or cultural spectrum. Yeah, you don't ever and you won't ever hear me saying, well, I better call the police or I'm going to escalate. No, what I would do is I would just explain myself or I just give back as much as she gave to me, right? But no, you want to play victim. Well, I guess that's the thing. Yeah. When in Rome, right? All the way from Trudeau on down, it's everyone wants to play the fucking victim status. Well, I got something to tell you there, man. We can all be victims and we can all be oppressors. And that's a reality. And pretend that fucking anyone, whether it's your race or what's between your legs, or anything, have some fucking monopoly on oppression or victimhood. Yeah, no. Like I say, we can all be one or the other. And this goddamn whiny ass bitchiness ain't going to gain or garner you any respect from anyone. Certainly not from me. The fact that you would make such a big thing over the fact that some woman said some things you didn't like. Like, how fucking pathetic are you? Anyway, so yeah, I kind of feel like I did a couple good rants there. I still got a few more within me, but then let me just pop back into the chat and say hi to everyone here. Hey, what's going on, Denny Ringers? What's up? Hey, what's going on? Nice to see you in the chat there, Denny. Appreciate that. Michelle Reese. Silly American Oregon here. Oh, silly American Oregon here. Silly American here. Hey, it don't matter where you're from. Are you good peeps? That's all that matters to me. But thanks to the stream. Really appreciate that, Michelle. I hope I pronounced your last name right. I might not have. I apologize if I didn't. I wish Doug Ford would just lower the HST because the carbon tax is really killing me. Yeah, I'm with you there, Denny. I'm with you. Yeah, eliminate that shit or just put some fucking effort into unwinding this, what should be illegal, unconstitutional, federally imposed carbon tax, right? I mean, if the fucking so-called conservatives of this country would just, show some solidarity with each other and the fucking Canadian people would do the same thing and put Trudeau and the NDP, that's the thing. The NDP keeps pretending. They like to pretend that they care about the working people. Well, guess who suffers the most under the carbon tax? Or any fucking of these taxes for that matter, right? It's the poor people. It's the people on the lower end of the social economic spectrum who suffer the most. And like I say, even the hacks of the media have had to acknowledge that in the past. But yet, they still want to make those people's lives more expensive so they can virtue signal. Once again, Canadians, my fellow Canadians, don't be such a clear contrast to the Americans. Maybe this is one of those times where you want to try to duplicate or try to replicate what the Americans are doing in terms of putting their politicians on notice and saying, no, you're not fucking robbing me no more. And I don't give a shit about your virtue signaling. There are answers to the climate problems or issues that may, affect us in some way at some point in time in worse ways than we can imagine now. And those answers are always driven by the market and technology and innovation. It should never be met or answered with using the big giant proverbial gun in the room to clobber everyone over the head with, or as a means to impose your will on others. That should never be the answer when you're talking about something that requires innovation and the entrepreneurial mind. You are literally stifling. If you actually care about the climate and are worried about climate change, if you're supporting any of these leftists, these wokesters, these climate change agenda-driven tyrants, you're actually helping to make things worse, not make things better. Because yes, there are answers. There are solutions to the problems. But once again, they have to come about as a consequence of innovation and technology, not tyranny. Because, yeah, it doesn't work out good under tyranny for anybody, even for those of you who think naively that may very well be the answer. It's not. Trust me. Freedom. Freedom of association, the markets, competition. Those are the answers. Doug Ford is not he most certainly is. You're right about that, Denny. He most certainly is not a conservative. That's the thing in Canada, and it took me a little while, but I've known it for quite a few years now. But it took me quite a while there early on when I was trying to learn all this stuff, when I was just delving into politics and stuff. It's like, yeah, conservative in Canada, yeah, it's like the Sam Squanch or the Sasquatch, right? It's like people have said they've seen him, but I don't know. I don't think there's any proof, and I tell you the truth, don't believe that he exists. It's just like an actual Canadian conservatives in terms of the establishment politicians or political parties. Yeah. Now, it seems to me that they actually don't genuinely exist, or if they do, they'll never rise to any position of authority in politics in this country. That's for sure. And that's a reflection of the kind of people who support, right, the ruling establishment too. So you got to, because that's the thing, folks, you got to remember, it's not just the rulers and the establishment political parties. It's the millions of Canadians who support them, or the millions of other Canadians who represent the silent majority who are seemingly just allowing this stuff to play out with actually, putting some skin in the game and making your voice heard by pushing back against it. At least the American people, and men in particular, a lot of those people that normally would have been people like myself or others that don't typically vote, who stepped up to the plate and said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. Not for Trump, but for my country. And Trump's the man who seems to be the one who cares as much about my country as I do, and those liberties that we all seem to cherish, right? The American people said, yeah, there's lots of things about Trump that you can nitpick at, that you can say, oh, he's not the perfect human being, which he most certainly is not. But you know where his allegiance lies. You know at least his aspirations and goals, and how he's going to do that. Once again, that's going to be a story yet to be told and to unfold. But at the very least, he has at least the right vision, which is to bring about more freedom and liberty socially and economically and culturally to the people of America, which once again benefits everyone, and in particular both sides of that political divide, which is why you just can't help but wonder, will they eventually come around too? Even a lot of these never Trumpers, or the ones that suffer TDS, will a lot of them even come around too once they realize that, hey, fuck, things are better under Trump. Matter of fact, I can breathe much better with that freedom. My wallet's seeming much fatter with a lot of that economic liberty as well, and less wealth and income redistribution and theft taking place, right? Anyways, thanks to you folks who did join the stream and comment there. I really appreciate that. But I want to point this out. I give kudos where kudos due. And I was really impressed to see this. I'll bring this on just real quick. I'm going to bring this on because I even would recommend you check this out. I'm actually surprised. I don't know why this is being done, if it's just gauging things. Once again, I just don't trust the CBC or really anyone that works at the CBC, and obviously for good reason. But once again, I'm always willing to accept that there are always exceptions and outliers, and I like to treat people as individuals. And in this particular case, so as you can see, this is on the CBC. It's a CBC podcast, 3 critics on the future of the CBC. And it's what, 44, almost 45 minutes long. But basically, he actually brought 3 people on who were not happy with the establishment and CBC in particular, and he allowed them to get their actual perspective and opinions out there, and he got an earful, right? He heard a lot, and I agreed with a lot of what the people on the panel said. The people that were saying that we need to defund the CBC, or CBC, if not defund, at least has to at least get to a point where you're not playing politics. Well, where you're just offering a platform and not playing politics. But yeah, so I will just say, I will point out that this is great. And here's another thing I wanted to mention. When I actually went to the CBC podcast, let me just point this out to you folks, because I mean, it kind of, for someone like myself, makes me feel a little bit better. Because, as you folks know, some days I feel a little bit down by the sheer fact that, I don't get much of an audience anymore. I went from back in the day of having an audience, sometimes of up like tens of thousands of people, right? That down to a few thousands of people, down to maybe just 1,000 people, down to like, maybe 600-700, down to now, like it's just basically just a couple hundred, maybe 200 or 300 at best I get in my live streams and my videos these days. And it does get disheartening at times. You can't help it. But I will just point this out, right? I don't have anyone backing me. Matter of fact, I'm a one-man band here, right? I have no budget even. It's just I have a paycheck, and out of my paycheck, or if people donate, I pay for my streaming service and all that stuff and my internet. But I don't really have a budget per se. I'm just, like I say, I'm just a one-man band who at least is somewhat decently understanding in terms of how you do this stuff, and have the willingness and forthrightness and the courage to put my voice out there on the internet, and in particular in podcast form or in live streams, right? But here's the CBC. I just want to make sure you folks can see that. So this is the CBC once again, and this is their podcast platform. So this covers all of the podcasts that CBC does, which is so sad that a publicly funded fucking broadcaster is soaking up all the fucking, or a sizable portion of the podcast world with their funds, and really not really returning much in terms of engagement or audiences. The return on investment is massively failing, and that's fallen on the taxpayers. Right? I mean, I don't give a shit if CBC News podcasts fail and get minimal views, but forcing Canadian taxpayers to pay for this shit, basically, and a lot of this stuff is just to gaslight us or to lie to us or admit facts to us. That's a tough enough deal as it is. But to see that, a lot of these things, they don't have any more views, some of them, than I do. Well, I mean, here's one right here. The Fake Baby CBC podcast, 132 views 5 days ago, right? This one here, see, Celine Dion's Path to International Success, 302 views. Look at this one, 185 views, 298 views, 907 views. Well, this one, something must have happened there because it had 10K views. So anyways, so some of them do get some views, but look at this one. 38 views, 42 views, 127, 66, 93, 171, 76, 38, 35, 96, 63, 8 views. This was 2 weeks ago. This was a podcast on CBC podcast from 2 weeks ago that had 8 fucking views. And this guy probably gets paid decent money. I'm assuming, I can't say for certain, but I'm assuming all these fucking people on CBC podcasts are getting some kind of an income. And yet, if I had 8 views, well, I mean, even with the views I get, which I'll admit ain't huge by any stretch of imagination, and yeah, not even enough for me to make any money out of it. But once again, I work for a living, so I was like, I can still function either way. But this is done through a corporation, right? And once again, Canadian taxpayers are forced to pay for all this shit, and yet getting basically zero return on investment. And once again, you can scroll down through it. This one was 146 views. Once again, you can scroll down all through this. Just go to youtube.com/@CBC podcast, and you'll see exactly what I'm seeing, and what I'm showing you right here is like a lot of these podcasts aren't getting any views whatsoever because Canadians don't want nothing to do with that shit. The sad part is I think there probably is a sizable portion of the Canadian population who would love to be privy to the kind of information that I provide, or the podcast, the information provided in my podcast or live streams. But I'm so heavily suppressed, or so many people have misrepresented me and my views to the point where, I'm like a third rail kind of a human being in this country, where I don't know, people can't, listen to me or watch my stuff. Or once again, I'm so shadow banned that they don't even get to see that my content actually exists. I mean, that is one area, once again, where I can ask, and I know you folks probably already do that yourself, but you folks can help me in some way by, letting other people know about my podcast. I know there's more than just mine, but I'm pretty good in terms of putting feelers out there and seeing who's out there on the landscape, right? And and it's not being egotistical, but I just got to say and admit that, yeah, I think I'm vastly superior in terms of having a philosophical understanding of things, not just politics, and understand history, but economics and stuff. I think I'm a fairly well-rounded guy that has a pretty good pulse on things. Or good pulse on what should be like the dominant discourse and discussions taking place today, rather than, like I say, a lot of people who are still playing politics. I get politics can be, just like Jerry Springer or shit back in the day, some of them, or sensationalized tabloid. I get it. It can be entertaining, right? And somewhat even engaging at times. But once again, the most important thing we need to be talking about these days are the ideas. And the ideas have to be focused and centralized to the idea of liberty. And then it should all permeate out through that. The central focus should be standing in full-throated defense of our fundamental rights and inherent liberties. And then, branch off from that. But that has to be where the conversation takes place. That has to be where the conversation originates. And that's the place where I'm at constantly and continuously. And yeah, let me show you this one, folks. Even at the CBC, don't you fucks get sick and tired of being wrong? Not to mention pitting fucking Canadians and Americans against each other, whether you're talking about, familial connections, friends, neighbors, co-workers, people based on their skin color, men and women, pitting men and women against each other, the rich versus the poor, the college or university educated versus, the not college or university educated, blue collar versus white collar. That seems to be the only thing that the hacks at the CBC care about, is breaking down the family unit and pitting us all against each other. And this is another example of that. CBC News World, what canceling your dad's vote says about the U.S. election. What canceling your dad's vote says about the U.S. election's gender divide. Even Tim Walz's daughter, Hope, got in on the trend that's all over TikTok. This is reported by Natalie Stetchison, November 2nd, 2024. Can you actually cancel someone else's vote? Not really, but in a tight presidential race in a deeply divided country, U.S. voters are still trying, or at least making light of it. With the U.S. election just days away, social media is rife with people claiming to be canceling out the votes of family members and friends with differing political views. It began with a Gen Z TikTok trend that later spread to X, where voters have been posting tongue-in-cheek videos saying they're canceling the votes cast by their parents, right? Specifically, most of the TikTok posts are about voting to cancel your dad, right? Your dad, right? And why dad in particular? Oh, you'll find out here in a sec. The implication often being that the voter's father is more conservative. So, or I guess it could even be libertarian. But that's the thing in Canada. They don't even like using that word very often. So in Canada, they'll just say liberal or conservative, right? Typically. But yeah, anyone, I guess, who would actually be someone who does generally want to shrink the size and scope of government, right? Who doesn't want to be all up in your face, controlling every aspect of your social and economic life, right? Which is so weird to hear that a young person would be like, oh, I want that. What the fuck? That's weird. What, you want your parents to be more dominating and controlling of you? That seems weird. Anyways, it's also inspired a sub-trend of people posting about being grateful that they don't have to cancel out a vote. I get what? Because their dad's not around. Like, what the fuck? That's pretty weird, right? That's pretty weird. Remember they did that thing with JD Vance with the weird? Yeah, 2 can play that game. And because it's the internet, a sub trend of people sarcastically saying, "How nice for you." And here, look at this. Look at this. Look at what CBC shared here. Yeah, I didn't want to scroll past that. A TikTok. Look, me on my way to cancel out my dad's vote. And it's fucking Taylor Swift, right? And that was the other thing. Think about it. All of these people who thought that they were, I mean, some of them make good music, right? That's fine. I've never really been a big fan of Taylor Swift. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 of her songs way back in the day. It was like, yeah, it's got a pretty good beat. You know what I mean? I didn't really care much for a lot of the lyrics and shit, but hey, whatever. I was like, whatever, it's fine. But yeah, think about all of the big hitters, like your Oprah Winfrey, your Taylor Swift, your Barack Obama. Well, he's not a fucking celebrity, but I mean, he's not a singer or whatever actor, but he's a big celebrity. Think of all the big actors, right, and all that stuff, right? Who came out and fucking support, or Cardi B, like what an embarrassment that was. Right? Who came out and they thought, oh, look, we got all this star power. We're just going to dominate. And they were kind of really, you could see just in this article, like, oh, yeah, here we go. We're going to do this, man. We're going to do this. Well, how'd that work out for you? Huh? Not so fucking well, huh? Yeah, a guy that you consider to be a nerdy, geeky guy like Elon, turns out he's got way more influence, huh? I bet that really pisses these fucking lefties off, especially a lot of these CBC hacks. It's fucking hilarious. But anyways, on X, formerly known as Twitter, the trend has broadened further, where there are also a number of posts about canceling your partner's vote. Yeah. So, yeah, they're not just trying to divide the family in terms of, daughters and sons and their dad in particular, right? But no. Hey, what about that husband of yours that might vote fucking Republican or conservative? Yeah. I mean, maybe you want to listen to the advice they give it here, right? What do you mean you're on your way to cancel out your husband's vote? You should be on your way to the courthouse. Divorce, babe, divorce, wrote Lexi Lafleur Bleu on a post with more than 1.6 million views. The posts are generally light in tone, but experts have noted that they reflect the vast gender divide in U.S. politics and the role that could play in what polling experts have called one of the most gendered elections in history. I don't know why they're going on with. Here we go. The TikTok videos point to a serious concern, the challenge of maintaining relationships across political lines, but do so in a really lighthearted manner, says Zarina Zerba, pop culture expert and assistant professor in the Creative School of Toronto Metropolitan University. Like, holy fuck. The choice here is drastic, says Zerba. They're using the language of TikTok to make light of a very uncomfortable and very serious situation. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know why I even bothered wasting much time on that. That's kind of a lame thing in a way. But once again, at least it points out 2 things: that the media is constantly talking about dividing people like this, right? Rather than trying to find ways to unify them, which would be the wiser and more astute thing to do. And I hope Trump doesn't spend a whole lot of time, trying to seek out vengeance. Although, once again, one part of me is like, yeah, you do kind of got to get them back, right? You do. You really do, right? These fuckers, because if you don't, they're just going to want to do it again. So, yeah, they do got to be put on notice, and they do need to suffer in some way for what they did, for sure. But once again, the central focus has to be on, just doing the right things for the American people, right? Making it so that tyranny is kept at bay for the foreseeable future. And that obviously is not based on just policies, but, in terms of dominating the culture, the mindset, right? That's what's mostly important. More important, I should say. Yeah. And here, let me just bring up another one here. Well, actually, I don't know. Should I even bother? But it's another example, once again, the contrast, right? The Americans love having Rumble and X to counter like YouTube, especially in particular when YouTube was suppressing content so heavily during COVID-19, right? And like Facebook. Americans love it. Whereas in Canada, CBC, and of course, CBC does an investigation, like really an investigation. Like, really, you're wasting fucking resources there, CBC, but you don't care because it's other people paying. So you don't really care, I suppose, right? But yeah, look at this. How Rumble went from a family-friendly Canadian startup to a megaphone for U.S. election deniers. Once known for viral pet videos, Rumble changed after investments from pro-Trump financiers. This reported by Jonathan Montpetit, November 2nd, 2024. Steven Crowder has big plans for election night. The far-right commentator said he will live stream his show on the video sharing platform Rumble until a winner is declared. Crowder, who routinely airs debunked claims of voter fraud, believes that could take days or weeks, potentially making his the longest-lasting election night live stream in internet history. He is promising the November 5th show will highlight election anomalies coast to coast, reported to him by undercover journalists and volunteer poll watchers. The live stream will also feature appearances by other pundits known for spreading electoral disinformation, including Alex Jones, Dan Bongino, and Tim Pool, all of whom have their own popular channels on Rumble with a collective following of 3.8 million. Rumble founder and CEO Chris Pavlovski said in a news release his company is excited to capitalize on this kind of content. Nonpartisan election watchdog groups in the U.S. have been increasingly vocal this electoral cycle about efforts by right-wing and other pro-Trump activists to interfere with the voting process, which have included documented attempts to pare down voter rolls and influence the certification process. So once again, just another example where the CBC is trying to paint anyone who just like, you fuckers tried to dominate the discourse on your own platforms. I mean, think about what CBC has done. I, many years ago, used to even comment. I probably still have my account on CBC News. I haven't used it for years and years. But every time I would put my opinion or perspective out there, when they did at least allow comments in most articles, even controversial things, dealing with controversial content matter or subject matter, at least back then, they did at least initially allow for us to comment, unless you had the wrong opinion or perspective, which I quickly found out. It's like, why the fuck do you keep deleting my comments? Why are you preventing me from putting my opinion and perspective out there? Well, this is what I mean. The establishment hacks in the media have been doing that, using their own platforms to bully, intimidate, or deny people like myself from having a voice, from having an opinion or a perspective. And then even some of the dominant social media platforms who originally started out being created as disruptors to the status quo, as disruptors to the establishment, who have now slowly been taken over by a bunch of authoritarian collectivists, right? Because originally, yes, they were startups predominantly by libertarians. But, as they became bigger and more prominent and had to have board of directors and more pigs at the trough, they become, just like most institutions, collectively taken over by these collectivists, right? So once again, people like myself or even conservatives or others or those who are just independent or not on board with the status quo or the ruling establishment, we're like, we keep losing all these platforms. They're like, oh, fuck, I can't get my voice out there because these authoritarian collectivists are preventing me there. And over here, they're silencing my speech. Over here, they're suppressing it. Over here, they're shadow banning me. So some people said, you know what? Hey, we're capitalists. We're innovative. We're entrepreneurs. Let's start up alternative options rather than worry about tearing them down, which is kind of along the lines of what I've said for years, folks, is don't worry about fucking wasting time tearing them down. Just create alternatives, which is what they did, which is what Chris Pavlovski did with Rumble, which is what basically, think about it. Not that Elon had to create anything new. He just took it over and said, here, freedom of speech actually exists now, right? Which was great. This is what you do. But once again, every time we get this alternative option or place where we can put our voice out there, well, the media spends a substantial, sizable portion of the time trying to get these platforms taken down so we have no place to expose or espouse our views or to use our voices or to spread our ideas or information. These are people who can't function with competition. These are people who know their ideas are so bad that all it takes is someone like myself to offer an alternative perspective built on actual logic, reason, and ethics, and it'll completely destroy the house of cards that they built up, right? That's how fucking weak and inept these people are. Anyway, so I'll just, once again, I'll let you know that this article 2 will be linked in the description of the video. There's a couple more here, folks. Oh, let me just bring this up too. Talk about election interference. Let me bring this up. Actually, I'm going to bring this one right on the screen because the fucking funny thing when they talk about these leftists in Canada in particular and the US too, but in Canada, they keep talking about, election interference. Meanwhile, it's your side. It's these authoritarian leftists and collectivists. That's where all of the actual election interference is taking place for the most part. Right? The real election meddling in Canada is taking place with all these fucking leftists and these collectivists getting in bed with the whether it's the Chinese Communist government, right? Or some of these, whether you're talking about the India, Pakistan thing. But once again, it's not fucking Russia and Canada that's dominating discourse and trying to do election interference. No, it's China and Trudeau, who's a great admirer of Xi and his basic dictatorship, right? And of course the NDP too, as well, right? They like they like imposing tyranny and silence and suppressing voices too. But listen to this. Even our media publications, well, I ain't going to claim the Toronto Star. It ain't mine, but it is a publication in Canada. They're even willing to run actual election interference and promote it on their publication without any irony, without any self-reflection of what they're actually doing. This is how fucking out of touch these people are. So look at that. You see this, right? Toronto Star, federal politics. That's the section it's under, federal politics. Help Kamala Harris by dropping out of presidential race. Elizabeth May urges U.S. Green Party leader. Green Party leader Elizabeth May is urging U.S. counterpart Jill Stein to enter presidential campaign and endorse Kamala Harris to help prevent a Donald Trump victory. So this is reported November 1st, 2024 by Mark Ramsey, Ottawa Bureau. Green Party leader Elizabeth May is urging U.S. counterpart Jill Stein to end her presidential campaign and endorse Kamala Harris to help prevent a Donald Trump victory. May told the Star on Friday that a second Trump presidency would present a catastrophic threat to climate policy, women's rights, democracy, and world peace, as she broke from Canadian political convention by putting her full-throated support behind the Democratic candidate just days before the highly contested presidential election, in which votes for Stein in battleground states could be a decisive factor. So, like, wasn't much of an article, right? But I mean, once again, no one in this article, well, Mark Ramsey didn't point out the fact that, hey, it's not just that it's a norm or not that she stepped outside the Canadian norms. It's that, yeah, wouldn't this be considered, because she is the leader of a political party in Canada, talking to the leader of the political party, the counterpart political party, the Green Party in the U.S., to say, hey, drop out of the race. Couldn't that be construed as political interference, as election interference? Fuck, it sure seems to me. And I'll tell you, the only reason why I believe that's the case is based mostly on the way the establishment media talks about how low the threshold is for anything to be considered election interference. I mean, from what they talk about, hell, if Putin agrees that Trump is better than whatever, and he doesn't even advocate for it, but if, let's say, some reporter asks him, who would you rather? If he says, oh, Trump would probably be better than fucking Kamala, well, the CBC and the hacks in the media would be all over it, and the Star would be all over, look at Putin, election interference, it's that foreign meddling. But yet, mum's the word when it comes to doing the same thing for an actual Canadian who's much closer. And we're talking about two parties that carry the same branding, right? We're talking about two green parties, the Canadian and the American. So once again, if you can say anything that Putin has done would be considered election interference, well, where is it in this article? Where's the outrage? It's completely absent, right? Which just goes to show that it's not that they care about election interference. Well, they do, if it means they'll lose. That's the only reason why. That's it. Oh, and yeah, let me just say one more thing. I won't bring it on, but yeah, like I say, Danielle Smith, the one woman in this country, the one politician in this country who seems to have the courage of her convictions to actually do what she said, seemingly for now. Once again, I'll change my opinion if facts change as well. But for now, like I say, from what I'm seeing out there on the political landscape, she is vastly superior to everyone else in terms of people that are on the conservative side of things, in terms of fully defending her policy positions and being willing to stand up to the bullies in Ottawa, right? Awesome. And I'm very happy that she is. And here's another thing that the Alberta people should be happy about, or at least the people who care about their freedoms and liberties as well, is Yeah, Alberta Premier, the one that CBC was hoping desperately that she would be kicked to the curb by at the convention, right? By the leadership review or whatever. Sorry, the leadership review that she had to the Conservative Party was undertaking, or the UCP. But instead, no. Alberta Premier wins leadership review with 91.5% approval. Our conservative movement is stronger than it's ever been. Daniel Smith. Well, it sure seems that way when you get approval of 91.5% of your base of support. Seems like you must be doing something right. and good on those people and good on her for doing that. Yeah, and I'll just bring this up real quick. Once again, I'm going to try. I'm going to tie this stream up fairly soon. I'll check out some of the comments for sure. Don't worry, folks. I'm getting back in the comments, but I don't want to keep these streams going too crazily long. But where was that? Where was I going to go with this? Oh, this. Yes. So once again, talk about election interference. Pretty bad when it has to be a publication from across the pond to point this stuff out. But hey, we'll take it however we can get it. Take it however we can get it, folks. Look at this one. This is the Telegraph.uk. This is a publication of the United Kingdom, by the way. If you're not familiar, it would actually even be considered somewhat of an establishment, although it's kind of like the National Post in Canada, where they've got some establishment hacks that definitely really supported the status quo, but they also have a fair amount of people who are anti-establishment, or at least willing to offer up alternative perspectives and opinions. And the Telegraph is something along those lines as well. Daniel Dorman. This is treason. Chinese agents are running Canada. Election meddling and politicians handled by foreign intelligence agencies. So once again, this is reported by Daniel Dorman, October 31st, 2024. So I don't have access to the article. I'll just read this little bit here. For 7 days, the Telegraph has run a series of exclusive essays from international commentators examining the impact of Canada's progressive legislation on issues such as drugs, free speech, trans rights. So anyways, I guess, I don't really get a chance to read the article, but the headline speaks volumes, don't it? It'd be great if I could read the article in its entirety. But anyways, if for any of you folks that maybe have access to it, check it out, read it. If you get access to it, maybe you have a couple articles that you get for free or something, or maybe you're subscribed to them. And if you do, share that stuff around so people can get some information. That would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, let me get back into the chat here, folks. Hope you and your family are doing. Oh, they are doing great, Denny, and I really appreciate that. I hope you and your family are doing great as well, and I appreciate the kind words. Ron Paul, baby. Yes, Stephen Grassley. Great thing to point out. Ron Paul. Yes, I've been busy talking about that. Actually, I know I'm not sure if I even mentioned it so far yet. But yes, Ron Paul being part of the transition team, and hopefully, even being part of maybe get a position. Like, how great would that be for Grandpa Ron? But no, good old Ron Paul, man. Like I say, that guy, man, at least he must know that he helped inspire a lot of all this, right? Not Trump per se, but how this all played out, how it's all unfolding, and the fact that libertarians are not just sitting on the sidelines bitching and moaning, right, and complaining about the deep state and the establishment, but are now even going to get involved in politics to hopefully, like I say, to be more pragmatic and like I say, just don't just, because that's the thing I was always concerned is like, yes, it's great in some way to be always in the right and take the best principle position, but if it's not translating to helping people gain their freedoms or their liberties, it's like, yes, it's great, but man, we need some actual reality to reflect some of this stuff, right? And it's great to see that libertarians are going to have hopefully outsized influence and sway on Trump and some of the policy positions that he will take and implement. This is fucking great. And Ron Paul is by far the best, man. And even at his age, like, he's an older man now, like Ron Paul is, but his faculty, he's still got his faculties about him and can still be a great advisor. And once again, it's not just Ron Paul. I mean, you got Rand Paul and Trump, I think, kind of starting to come around to liking Rand Paul a little bit there now, right? And I mean, you got Dave Smith now that's kind of got the ear of Trump. Well, you got a lot of people, right? Like I say, there's lots of names out there that are libertarians who are now I know it's making this whole thing is making for strange bedfellows, but like I say, if at the end of the day, the American people not just gain back some of their rights and liberties that have been quashed in recent years and decades, but can help inspire that kind of stuff to take place up here, up in the Great North, the Great White North, and maybe across the pond, the UK, like. This is all good in the hood, man. I'm just pleased as pudding, right? As how this is playing out, and to know that Ron Paul is part and parcel of it, kind of get you right here. But yeah, nice thing to point out there, Stephen Grassley. Great point. Hey, what's going on, David? David, nice to see you in the chat, my friend. I am glad. Camina. yeah, that's a good one. I was using a little bit of a politically incorrect. Trump got everyone on, well, not everyone, but it's like into these fucking pet names, right? I was calling her camel toe for a while. I don't know why. It's just I kind of want to get a little bit Trumpian, I guess. I don't know. The guy's had some influence, apparently, right? No, that's pretty funny though. But yeah, I'm glad Cam Hyena didn't win, but there are still agendas going on with most people clueless. Oh, that is true, David. That is true. Oh, we can never, we can't take our eyes off the ball, right? That's for sure. That's for sure. But once again, I think Trump's going to have enough people around him to be chirping this kind of stuff in his ear that, like I say, I think we're in a much better position now, right? We liberty lovers with Trump at the helm this time around than the first time, right? I think we're in a much better place. Hey, once again, I could be proven wrong. Things could come out of left field entirely and put me back on my heels. But until that happens, until I see it, well, I'm just kind of going with, the feel, my gut feeling, my gut feeling and how things are folding out and as they are right now, right? After what I've seen in the last few elections, I think this one went way too easy and peaceful for me. While knowing more about Trump and his backing, he's still the only alternative to all-out communism. I'm with you there, and you know what? Good on you, David, for still being skeptical. That's, man, I can't ever get mad at people who are skeptical about things because once again, we know there are Machiavellian minds out there, right? And we know reverse psychology, it's applicable and works. And there are a lot of different ways that the establishment or the control freaks or the manipulators or the thought leaders and the propagandists, they got a lot of tools at their disposal and they're not all stupid. Some of them are quite smart, right? Which is why you diminish your own self if you keep playing down by suggesting that they're all idiots, right? No, there's some people. So good on you, David, to still be a little bit hesitant and still constantly want to look over your shoulder because I will be too. So good on you, man. Good on you. Vast world backings, though. Yeah. I'm going to get more involved locally because not only are things affecting me, but the corruption has trickled down to every aspect of Houston. Well, good for you, David. Good for you, David. Definitely, especially if you're in Texas, right? Well, I mean, we even want to help the blue states to hopefully some point in time, you want to expand liberty out to everybody, right? Or at least, decent people in the world. Maybe not the most evil people on the planet, right? Right. Although liberty might help bring them around. Who knows? But yes, definitely, it's David in particular, when you're talking about Texas, as a Canadian who's always been a great admirer of the staunch independence of Texans, their massive defense of not just their First and Second Amendments, but all of their inherent rights, in particular property rights, and their amazing capitalist adventures and corporations, all the things that Texas provides, right? I mean, and it's such a, like I say, it's such a state that I as a Canadian, I dream of. Texas would be one of those states where I would probably want to, land there. And yeah, it's definitely one of those states you want to do whatever you can to help protect and defend those freedoms and those liberties, right? Because you never know how things are going to be, right? And that's the advice that I definitely agree with Jordan Peterson too, right? Is worry about cleaning up your own room and then maybe your backyard before you worry about, railing on other people or telling them what to do. Yeah. Lead by example, clean up your own back or your own bedroom, your own backyard. And that's something that David is saying. Yeah, I want to be part and parcel to do that. And I'm with you there, David. Good for you, my friend. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. That's why you're wiser than the average bear, David. That's why you're wiser than the average bear. right? You actually have a much better grasp and understanding. And that's the thing for leftists. Not like I would expect any of them to be watching this, but maybe even just liberals in the classical sense, or people who are progressive in some way, who just don't know what the fuck to think about things. Let me just say this. People like David, people like myself, and the rest of the people in this chat, and most libertarians, I can't say hashtag not all, I can't say, but most libertarians, anarchists, volunteers, independents, anti-establishment types, we mostly have a live, let live mentality, right? What it is we just want to be left the fuck alone. We don't want to dominate you. We don't have any wishes to do so. We just want to be left alone, and we want other people to leave us the fuck alone, right? We just want a small amount of base rules, right? Just like in your household, like, don't hit each other, don't steal from each other, don't kill each other, don't rape each other, all that stuff, right? We just want some baseline rules, and then let freedom and liberty dominate the rest of our lives, right? Stick with the rules that are important, that actually creates genuine social cohesion and prosperity and freedom and independence, right? And people's ability to flourish in their own way. Those rules are really important. But once again, then you have to leave it up to each individual. And no matter where you rest or reside on the political spectrum, or even if you're apolitical entirely, is that live mentality, entrepreneurial zeal, competition, those are the things that are going to bring about the things that a lot of you progressives or leftists actually want. You just need to get your fucking political thought leaders and masters off of our fucking backs for these things to actually happen. So, yeah, don't support them anymore. Get on board, not just with the Trump train, but liberty in particular. Make liberty the focus of your social, political, and economic transactions. Lead by example, and that's where we shift and change the culture, right? Trump can do some stuff for sure at the political level, but you need the culture to shift in a myriad of ways. And that doesn't just happen at the political level and from a top-down approach. No, that has to permeate through your culture by leading by example at the grassroots level. But right on. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody that showed up to the live stream. I think I'm probably going to tie this bad boy up here now. Once again, I'll be doing more live streams now. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'll just mention that now for those of you who are still in the live stream. I'll probably mention in the next one anyways. But yeah, I'm getting to the point now. I got one more week, and then I'm going to be back into the thick of things full time. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to maybe see what maybe I can do a little thing. I'm going to, for the next little while, I'm going to, let some ideas. Maybe you folks got some ideas. If you do have some ideas, maybe email me at CanadianLibertarianBH@gmail.com, or maybe comment on a post or sending me a message on Facebook or X or any of the platforms on Minds, right? But yeah, if maybe you folks have some ideas yourself, and what I could do to help better myself this year, and maybe get myself in a position where I do garner a larger audience, and we can have more of an outstretched influence and sway on things in Canada, and hoping to have helpfully bring a lot of our woefully and inadequately informed Canadians or propagandized Canadians, get them on board with actually, trying to bring some of that liberty to Canada. Because once again, it'll benefit us all. Well, except the very worst among us. And yeah, you don't really want to help out the very worst among us, right? Unless they want that help. Then okay. But the ones who are actively trying to, cause harm to you, you definitely don't want to prioritize helping them, right? Not saying you want to inflict harm on them, but don't prioritize dealing any time with them at all. I would say, like I say, just focus on the goal. And the goal is to bring about peace, prosperity, and liberty to as many people in all of our jurisdictions as humanly possible. That should be the focus. That should be the main goal, the main driver for us as Canadians going forward, so that we don't have this glaring contrast, so that we can at least, matter of fact, as you folks have heard me say, I would love as Canadians to not just, replicate Americans in terms of their promotion and advocacy of liberty. I'd love to step up even further and maybe even do it in a better way. That would be so amazing for me if Canada could punch above its weight, because we Canadians have punched above our weight in so many ways, and especially when you're talking about, like influence in terms of people from the music industry or actors or even people who are great contributors to economic prosperity, who have left Canada, became entrepreneurs down the US, which there are a lot of them, right? There are great people. There are great people in Canada. And I want those great people to be able to, show not just how great they are, but to lead by example. And once again, can we not be the shining light, that shining beacon? I think it's possible. I think we should be striving for it, right? And a little healthy competition in terms of us and our neighbors. Well, think about it. The one thing you're going to get about that healthy competition and that race to being the most liberty oriented is more and more liberty, which once again is great for us all. Anyways, thanks to you folks who did join the live stream. I'll see you in the next one. This is Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.